What's up, you beauties? My name is BatchatBegins, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are taking a look at the JagdPanzer E100. It's a fantastic tank, and it's a tank that I have been grinding for a while, that I've just recently researched. And the one big thing about the JagdPanzer E100 that you have to keep in mind when you're playing it is it's by no means a tank that you play to buff your win rate. You don't play this thing because it wins games, you play this because of the massive penetration and alpha. This thing can be a lot of fun, but it's not as consistent as, say, a Ho-Ri or perhaps a 268 at tier 10 for TDs at least. But the big thing with the JagdPanzer is that gun. It's got the second highest AP penetration in the game at the moment, and it's got the second highest penetration for standard rounds at the game at the moment, both falling behind the Ho-Ri. But the one thing that the JagdPanzer has above the Ho-Ri is that fantastic armor. It's built on the E100's chassis, as the name implies, and it has got a very, very solid casemate. Although the edges around the casemate, around the gun, are a bit weaker than you'd really like. They can be pinned with premium from most tier 9s and tier 10s. If you put yourself in proper positioning in the JagdPanzer, you're going to be able to side scrape most of the time, and you can nullify those weak spots to a certain extent. They'll still be pinnable, but it'll be a lot more difficult for your enemies if you're wiggling and using cover. And that's one of the main things you need to get used to if you're playing the JagdPanzer E100, is putting yourself in the right position at the beginning of the game. You need to put yourself in a position where the enemies are funneling in, kind of like Quavo here, Cool Math Games, is doing in his JagdPanzer E100 here on Fort Despair. You put yourself in a position that funnels the enemies in, where you can use your armor to its fullest extent, and where you can possibly go ahead and focus the enemies more easily. It's going to be harder for them to put all of their guns on you, and you can go ahead and focus one target out, like, say, the 50B or the T92 or the ST1 from earlier. So that's one big key thing in the JagdPanzer E100. The second thing for the JagdPanzer is hard cover. Now, that is really important. Seeing as this is one of the slower TDs at tier 10, it really needs to be able to shake off light and medium tanks that would try to flank it. And the best way to do that is to keep hard cover at least a tank's length away from you at all times. That way, if a tank is trying to get behind you, you simply go up to the hard cover, slowly turn around with the tank hugging the hard cover, and eventually you will be able to go ahead and shoot that enemy tank. Now, if you find yourself in that situation, it's always best to go ahead and start forcing the enemy tank away from you so that you can back up to your team. Like in this instance with the T92, obviously he wants to press backwards towards his allies and not go towards the enemies. And the T92 is not the brightest of players. He did not hug his side. If he did, or he had hugged the rear of the JagdPanzer, Quavo could just push forward and then go ahead and turn around, and it would have been okay. He would have taken perhaps one shot, but it wouldn't have been as bad. As you can see in this situation right now, we have a nearly full health mouse, a decently healthy 4005, and a one-shot T95, and we've already done a good job at going ahead and bleeding out the enemies. And your biggest thing in this tank is that you are the damage dealer. You're not a kill confirmer like, say, a Batchat or a TVP 5051. You are the damage. You are that big gun, and you need to be going ahead and putting that damage into the most deadly tanks on the enemy team. Now, Quavo, or Cool Math Games, has gone ahead and brought this game down to a 2v1, and it's been perfectly played so far. He was able to go ahead and assist his team with the barrage of enemy tanks that was coming from the heavy side of this map. And they whittled down their numbers and their HP pools, and now all they have left is one very slow, not so high DPM tank that they have to deal with, and it should be fairly easy cleanup. Because another thing that's great about this tank is it can definitely brawl like this, because it out-trades. It might have a pretty long reload, but it has the second highest alpha damage in the game behind the 183. And this is a great tank for this kind of situation. You've got the health if you've gone ahead and positioned correctly, like I mentioned earlier, and you've also got that penetration and alpha damage. As you can see, even with AP, the entire mouse's hull is pinnable. Of course, I've seen this replay before, and so I know it's coming. you do kind of have to aim better, I would say. I'm just teasing him a little bit, but no matter what, it's going to be easier if you're able to work with either a platoon mate or with your team. Obviously, the JagdPanzer, its shortcomings are its mobility and its unreliable turret armor. So just go ahead, play midline, I would say, and try to just work around your team, work around what they're planning on doing. If they're planning on pushing one side of the map, just set up to cover them from any counter pushes, or potentially go ahead and set up in the back. As soon as they are the ones getting focused, then you push out and you get some side shots into some people. That's the best way to really use this tank to the fullest extent. The second game I have for you today is courtesy of one of my very good YouTuber friends, that is Every Good Name Is Taken on the EU server. We featured one of Every's replays about a month or two ago. He was playing in the Object 140, and he is back on the channel today in the JagdPanzer E100, rolling out on Normandy. This map is a great map, not so much for slow lumbering TDs like this, but it is certainly a good opportunity to show you how this tank performs even on a map that's not particularly suited for it. Now, Normandy is a very well-known map for tank destroyers because they like to sit in the back and provide cover the entire game. But Every is taking a different approach to this map, and I'm really liking it. He's going right up here in the mid, near the encounter cap, and just trying to get some shots into the E3 and the T22 medium that have poked up in the middle here. And at this point, he's really going to be able to be an effective nuisance for that enemy team, because as soon as the E3 fires, or potentially the 62A, at the rest of his team, he's able to go ahead, poke out, and do around 800 damage. And that is the allure of the JagdPanzer E100. It's that huge damage that you can always outtrade your enemies with. And because it has armor, it can be midline, it can be frontline, unlike the 183. And that's what makes this such a deadly tank, is because you can put all of this alpha damage on a flank like this and absolutely change the tide of a game. So, he's pushing up, he's gone ahead and neutralized the E3. The T22 is on very low health as well. Unfortunately, he does go ahead and donk a shell off of the E50, which is a bit of a shame. E50 does have a little bit of a troll turret, and he is on a slope, so it's going to be a bit difficult to get a shot in. This tank is not really known for its accuracy on the move, but he is going to go ahead and try to make use of this position. And as you can see, like I told you from the first bit, this tank does not have the greatest hold down presence. It's got those turret casemate sides, and it's got that little tiny commander's hatch on the top that is also a weak point. So this could be a very problematic position if he does not angle correctly. But you can see he's doing the right thing. He's angling his tank about 45 degrees away from the enemy E50, and he's trying to keep it that way for the T22 as well. Now, eventually, he is going to have to choose a target, which he does choose the E50. Not a bad choice. Wouldn't have been too bad to go ahead and clear the T22, seeing as the STB1 is on pretty low health. But thankfully, because of this rushed action he's performing here, the T22 and the E50 do get cleared by his team. Now, the Progetto, I'm not really sure what's going through his head right now, because there was a side on JagdPanzer E100 that he could have dumped his whole clip into, but he does go ahead and decide to shoot the guy behind Every, and he does take him out, leaving a one-shot STB1 and the JagdPanzer E100 on his team. Now, Every did a good job there. A lot of TD players have this really bad habit of over-pursuing to catch an enemy team off, but Every knows that with this tank, one crucial mistake or slip up and you could be in for a lot of trouble because this thing is so immobile. So he knows that the Sheridan was last spotted on the E100 side, so he didn't want to over-pursue and leave the Sheridan a gap. And as you can see, for his hard cover here, he's using the hill. And I have to say, this is one of the best snapshots I have seen in the entire game. That was clutch. That was absolutely 100% clutch. And thanks to that, he didn't lose any HP because he was able to kind of wiggle while the Sheridan was on his side, bounced the shot off of his side of his casemate, and now he's got about 1100 HP to play with against this full health E100, The good news is, for the friendly team, that the E100 is stock. The bad news is that Every has run out of AP, so he is going to be dealing less damage per shot. About 100 less damage per shot, which is not great. And the E100 doesn't look like the worst player. He is aiming for the sides of the casemate, or if you're a seasoned E100 player, you'll know that you can just shoot right down onto the engine deck with AP, and that should pin as well. So it's a bit of a tense situation. You have to deal with an E100 from full health, and you have half of his health, less than half of his health. But the good news is, because Every's effective shots are going through each and every time, the E100 is panicking, and it looks like he's switched to HE, and he bounces the last shell. And that has all but confirmed this game, and I like that Every's gone ahead and switched to HE here to clear a 7,777 damage game. An absolutely fantastic game from Every, showing us just how to use the JagdPanzer E100 pipe positioning correctly. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this one. All relevant links will be down in the description below. If you'd like to send me a replay, my email and my Discord are there. My name is BatchatBegins, and I will see you guys in the next one.